Welcome to this episode on learning how to have uncomfortable conversations. I know for me, I wish I had this a million years ago in all the conversations I had that I totally messed up on. And then, like, years later, said sorry when I realized that I could have done it better. But I want to share with you all these tips so that once you have it, you can nip it in the bud and things can go smoother for you to get whatever results you want from these conversations. So let's go. Tip number 1, when you're having an uncomfortable conversation, the first thing you need to make sure is that your mood is okay. So for example, a friend of mine was just telling me that she had an issue with a coworker and couldn't talk to her for a long time because she was angry. And I said, that's great. You should talk to her when you're feeling better. And so your mood is really important. If you're angry at the person, chances are you're going to talk to them in a way that's going to provoke conflict, and they're not going to take it in a good way, and you're going to come off accusatory. But if you come from a place of giving the other person the benefit of the doubt, that will help you be in a better state of mind to deliver a message without so much confrontation. It'll be a healthy confrontation. So when you're in a mood, for example, of anger, if you looked at a frequency chart, anger is the last negative frequency before you go into the positive frequency. And the reason why anger is a good place to be in, for example, better than sadness, is because anger leads to action, right? When you're angry, you want to act, you want to fight, you want to do something. And so it's better to come from an action point than it is to be sad doing nothing and hiding or, retreating. So anyways, from anger, you build up what's the next emotion, which is courage. Once you're in courage, you've now crossed over to positive frequencies. And once you're in a positive, energetic state, that's when you can go up to someone, have the courage, have a better state of mind, giving the person the benefit of the doubt or having hope for a resolution, and then you can deliver the message. The second thing that you want to make sure you don't do when you're having an uncomfortable conversation is use the words you, never, and always. When you use the word you to start off any sentence, that person immediately will take offense. And once that happens, they shut down. They are not listening to anything that you're saying. They're just thinking of what they're going to tell you back to defend their stance. So to avoid that, if you want true resolution, stay away from the word you. Another word to stay away from is never. When you say never, it's another really quick way of accusing someone and making sure that they know that you've been tracking them for all these years or all this time. And really, it's not true that a person never does something. Maybe one time they might have done it. And maybe really it is a never, but just don't use the word because that word is just a really heavy word. The other word is always. Oh, you always do this. You always do that. Focus on the current situation. Stay away from trying to bring up the past and say, oh, because this happened and because also this happened and this happened and this happened. Focus on what the issue is at hand rather than each individual occurrence. The third tip is to focus on the situation and not the person. So when you're delivering a message that is uncomfortable, tell the person how you feel about them or something that you didn't like that they did, focus on what was done without saying you did this. So for example, if you're at work and you were to get an email that you interpret as rude, the way that you would approach a coworker to tell them that would be, the email I received made me feel like I was being talked down to. And so you're talking about the email. You're not talking about the person, right? And you're talking about the tone of the email, which yes, the person can change, but you're making the focus about how you feel. So this is the other thing I wanted to talk about. So the next tip is focus on how you feel and not about what the person did, right? So try to use this phrase next time you want to lead into an uncomfortable conversation. When this happens, I feel blank. When this happens, I feel blank. That way you're taking weight off the person and you're putting it onto the way that you feel. The reason why that's important is because no one can tell you how to feel or not feel. You're entitled to feel however you want to feel. If you accuse somebody of something, it can can be interpreted differently, right? That person can justify their actions and you can justify why that action was incorrect. And they could justify why it is correct. But the other person cannot tell you how you should feel. You can feel however you want to feel. So focus on your feeling and not on the other person. So using statements with I is very important. I feel, I want, etc. Another tip, stay away from the word don't. So instead of focusing on what you don't want the person to do, focus on what you would like for them to do. So instead of saying, I don't like the way you talk to me, you can say something like, I would like for you to talk to me in a more respectful way. I would like for you to talk to me with a little more compassion. Those are just some examples of how you can come from a place of what you would like versus what you don't want. I have an example that I used with my children when they were small and they would climb on the furniture. They were Spider-Man, And so one of the things that they loved doing was climbing the dresser, drawer by drawer. And if I were to tell them, hey, don't get on the dresser, what does that do, right? Well, as soon as you say, don't do this, they want to do that. So what I would tell them is, hey, right when they were already climbed on the dresser, I would say, I want you to put your 2 feet on the floor. And that would change everything. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but when you tell someone, don't do this, they're going to want to do it more versus you saying, I want you to do this. They're more inclined to do that. So tell them what to do, not what they shouldn't do. And then the other thing is make sure that when you're going to address this to someone, especially children, you have their undivided attention. So if you're going to want to talk to a coworker or a spouse or your child or anybody, make sure that they're not on their email. Make sure that they're not scrolling through Instagram. Make sure that they're not watching a movie or distracted. You want to make sure you have eye contact with them. And if it's over the phone, make sure that the time is right. So asking, is now a good time? That would work. And if it's not a good time, you set up a time. It's okay to wait. It's much better to wait to have an uncomfortable conversation than to just get it out of the way quickly because you think that now it has to be addressed right now. Most conversations can wait, and it's better off for it to wait anyways because it helps the situation cool down. And the last thing I would say is allow the person to respond. Many times you have already in mind what you want to say to the other person, and you might think they're not going to want to say anything and that you're just going to say what you want to say, walk away, and it's going to be great. Be prepared for a response. And when you get that response, acknowledge their feelings and acknowledge what they have to say and their perspective. You can just use simple words like, thank you, I understand, I appreciate it, thank you for your time, what's next? And sometimes it doesn't require a response. Just a simple, nod is okay. And just wait to see how the ice breaks. And sometimes it might be you. But remember, you always want to acknowledge the other person's feeling. You don't want to just jump back to what you were trying to address. I think that's it pretty much for the most part. There's more tips, a lot more tips that I can share, but I'll leave you with these. These are definite game changers. Just to go over them again. Make sure that you're in the right mood. Don't come from a place of anger. And if you're still angry, the best way to just jump into courage is by giving the person the benefit of the doubt and going from there because it'll just bring you compassion. Number 2 is stay away from the words you, never, and always. Number 3 is focus on the situation, not on the person. Number 4 is making sure that you're focusing on the I. Start your sentences with I. Number 5 is make sure that you have a listener with your undivided attention. And number 6, I think it was, make sure that you offer a space for the person to respond. And I think that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this is helpful. Please leave me comments below or reach out to me and let me know how it goes when you practice this. And hopefully it works. Thank you.